What's good, everybody? It's your man Big Don coming live naturally on the True Players Podcast episode with my good friend, my good buddy brother, Matthew from Jacobin Sports Show and Knicks Believe Pod. And also he's the author of the Strict.land. Definitely check him out. We're here to talk about some great news in Mets land because me and him are both great Mets fans here. And we're going to talk about Pete Alonso re-signing with the team. Very big news. It really pretty much completes the offseason. And also, I want to talk about something that's very dear to a lot of Optimum customers.
Oh yes,
because MSG and all T's could not come up with an agreement on a deal for MSG to be on their service. A lot of Knicks fans like myself couldn't watch Knicks games for a couple of weeks, but I found a way to do it myself, so that problem has been solved. But as far as other people who don't know how to solve that problem or when to go to spend their time to go to a different service provider, it's a bit of a hectic situation. And let's start with that first before we head on to Pete Alonso, because I was reading an article that my girlfriend sent to me about MSG going bankrupt and how Jeff Bezos may be involved in helping them getting them out of that situation. Now, with Jeff Bezos involved, does that mean he could possibly be taking over or being part owner of the New York Knicks? Because MSG do own the Knicks.
Here's the thing to be aware of there, and this has come up in conversation with James Dolan more than once over the years. As you know and I know, there's a difference in reality for rich people and for us. So if you and I go bankrupt, fucked. But I don't know what chapter bankruptcy this will be. There's different kinds of, institutional bankruptcy. So I don't know what kind MSG would be potentially in line for. But undoubtedly, first, I've read the stuff about Bezos, and I'm curious how much of that is authentic and how much of that is this guy, the one place he really doesn't have any money. I mean, he does in terms of the media deal with Amazon and the NBA, but he doesn't own a sports team. And I know that Bezos and a lot of American billionaires have been looking at basically English soccer and the NBA as the two leagues they want to really get into. So Bezos could certainly, it is possible that maybe, and it's an interesting conflict because you have Dolan as kind of the leader right now and really the lone wolf of the old owner view of like, there's markets and there's big and there's small. And Dolan's being hypocritical about this because the Knicks have never really been over the luxury tax. So there've been a number of years that the Knicks have gotten money as one of the teams that are not over the tax. Dolan's furious now because the changes in the new CBA and particularly in the new media rights deals are threatening to pull. Now he's blaming the league's deal for this. Dolan's contention is that the Knicks and other teams like the Lakers, anybody with a large TV deal, is hurt by the NBA wanting to go more towards this national media plan. Bezos fits into that. Bezos is spending about as much as anybody on this new media plan. So I don't know how much Bezos and Dolan would naturally be allies anyway, because I think they have slightly different. But the other thing to consider is even if Bezos if for some reason Dolan needed a raising of cash and Bezos did contribute, like there's no chance Dolan is selling for Bezos to even be part owner. Dolan would have to sell like a $3 billion share in the Knicks. He's not going to do that. So I've seen the Bezos stuff, and I think this whole blackout thing raises a lot of interesting questions. I don't think there's any chance it results in Bezos or anyone else taking the Knicks, unless the one thing you might want to think about, because we've seen it happen a couple times. You saw it in Phoenix under Adam Silver, and we saw it, well, more so the Clippers. We've seen cases where an owner has kind of been forced to sell the team against his will, because the NBA, with the Clippers, it was because of Donald Sterling's racism. With the Suns, it was ironically also because of Robert Sarver's basically racism, misogyny, and all his ugliness. So there have been times where Adam Silver's NBA has been able to push an owner out who they don't really think is reflecting on the league in the best light, and there's a way you can pressure that person out. Dolan has made a point of making Adam Silver his public enemy number one. If you have followed that whole Nick Toronto Raptor lawsuit thing where the Knicks are suing Larry Tannenbaum, the owner, and Darko Rojkovic, I think is his name, the coach. Like they're suing the Raptors, contending that someone who used to work for the Knicks was hired by Toronto and stole like thousands of computer files and stuff from scouting and gave it illegally to the Raptors. And like the story's not that big a deal, except Golden every step of the way has poured gasoline on the fire. So it's supposed to be just settled in arbitration between the owners. Dolan went public and said, I don't trust that. I reject that. I don't trust Adam Silver. Adam Silver's best friend is this guy from Toronto. I can't get a fair shake. So he made it like a much bigger deal than it had to be.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I wonder, Dolan, especially now that the Knicks are good, I cannot imagine would ever want to give the team to anybody. But I do wonder if the league is moving in a direction that's not as friendly for media moguls like Dolan.
Mm-hmm.
Is there then where you could start to see a little, because if Dolan ever did sell, the Knicks haven't been owned by an individual ever. They've been owned by corporations basically their entire history. How many corporations can shell out $6, $7, $8 billion if the Knicks go on sale? Well, Bezos would be one.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep following that story, and it's also perfect classic Dolan that the two times in my life I can remember the Knicks being blacked out was during Insanity, when that first started, and now when they're the best that they've been in like 30 years. So thank you, Optimum, thank you, Cablevision, thank you, James Dolan, thank you, everybody.
Oh man, it's a situation that's affected a lot of customers. I said, I missed 3 weeks. I missed about 3 weeks of Knicks basketball. So basically, I'm basically getting all my information from ESPN. I couldn't even. I think the first game I watched was the Knicks played against the Raptors in Toronto. Very, very big game. Very big game. RJ Barrett did not play in that game, and also, it was a great game. They were up by 23, but Toronto made it interesting late in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. But they pulled it out because they played a back-to-back and they were tied. Thibodeau starters playing 40 minutes per game.
The night before against Houston that went down to the wire. They had to come back in the fourth the whole time. Mm-hmm. The Toronto game was a game that definitely past Knicks teams would have lost.
Yes,
but I never had a concern that they would, which was good.
Yeah. So they pulled it out.
Big game tomorrow.
Big game tomorrow. Let's talk briefly about the trades that's going on. The trade that happened Saturday.
Which trade are you thinking about? Does anyone stand out more than the others?
The Luka for AD happened overnight. I woke up, I thought it was a dream. I was like, why would Dallas trade a 25-year-old All-Pro? Not only All-Pro, but an All-World player.
They traded Larry Bird. They traded Larry Bird at 25.
Yeah.
To the Lakers. So to me, this story is not just. There's all the interesting angles. Like there's what is Dallas thinking? How is Luka feeling? What's LeBron thinking? But the one that I find the most interesting is trying to identify like why did this happen? Luka didn't want to go.
Right.
I don't care what Nico Harrison says, and I don't care how many tables he feels he has to drop his balls on to show people how cool he is. I don't believe for a second that Nico Harrison and that and that the front office and the coaches decided we're better off without Luka. Mm-hmm. I don't believe Anthony Davis wanted this trade.
No.
I think he's okay with it, but I don't think Anthony Davis woke up being like, I wish I was in Dallas. And I know the Lakers didn't initiate it because the Lakers would have no reason to think, hey, let's contact Dallas and offer this joke of a package for a player that there's no reason to think he's available. So it had to come from somewhere else. What I find very interesting about this, to me, it's obvious. It's come from the new owners, the Adelsons, who are not Mark Cuban, who do not care about whether the team wins, loses, whether the fans are happy, sad. Getting Luka off the book. This is what's incredible to me. Not only do your stupid owners decide Larry Bird, 25, we don't need him. Not only that, you trade him to one of your biggest rivals in your conference. You trade him to a Laker team that everyone has seen has been a mess for years. because they put themselves in a position where they had no avenue to do anything other than wait for LeBron to leave and completely rebuild. Not only did Dallas give them a lifeline in this deal, not only did Dallas give them a trade offer that the rest of the league is losing their minds about because it's such a bad offer, but also consider this. Because Luka has now been traded, he would have been eligible this offseason for a supermax from Dallas. He does not qualify for that from the Lakers now because one of the contingencies of a supermax is it has to be with the team that you've spent either a certain amount of time with or been drafted by. So not only did Dallas give Luka away, the Lakers are going to pay him significantly less than Dallas would have because they can't pay him more, which will make it easier for the Lakers to add another star. So you didn't just give the Lakers a lifeline. You basically pulled them to shore, built them a mansion, rolled out the red carpet. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I was doing a live stream at the time. I was doing a post-game Knicks live stream, and we were doing like reader comments, and I got pissed because I thought somebody was trolling and was like, well, Luka to the Lakers for AD. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then we found out, like, oh. How did you feel?
Listen, I was shocked. I woke up, like I said, it was the middle of the night. I'm hearing this news. I leave my TV on, so I fall asleep. Old age, you forget to turn off shit.
Yep.
So, I heard it whispers in the background. I said, probably your dream. They didn't trade it. They don't damn well. They put no Luka Doncic over to the Lakers. No way. Nope. And I was like, oh shit. I looked at ESPN when I woke up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh shit, it really happened. And AD going to Dallas, like you said, I know AD did not want to go to Dallas. The only place that AD wanted to go if he was going to be traded was to New York. Yep. That's documented.
Yeah. So, I think he's okay with it because Kyrie's there, and he's always wanted to play with Kyrie. And because they're still a good team this year. Like I think he's okay with it. I think that Luka's going to learn to be very okay with it. I think LeBron probably really does miss AD a little bit, and apparently wasn't aware of this or expecting it. But I think AD is okay with it, and I think Dallas will be interesting this season. But the other part about it is you see through the logic. Sometimes your boss, you got to cover for your boss because your boss isn't going to take the hit. The idea that you traded Luka because you're worried about his conditioning, and he's 25. So you traded him for a guy turning 32 this season, next month, who has much more problems staying healthy than Luka does.
She sure does.
Like if they had said we're trading Luka for Shea, and you're like, oh my God, and they said, well, look, we're worried about Luka's conditioning, you might say, okay, I don't know what the future holds, but like Shea's in pretty good shape. He seems to stay healthy. Controversial move, but I can see the logic.
Right.
I don't see the logic of let's get 6 years older. Also, Luka can opt out of his deal after one more year.
Okay.
AD has 2 years left, I think, and then an opt out. So on top of everything else you've done, you've taken on. If also part of this was I want to get Luka off the books, you just brought in a guy who's on the books longer. Nothing about this trade makes sense to me, other than the answer to 99 out of 100 questions is money. And the owners realized we're not paying Luka a supermax. We can make a profit with Anthony Davis and pay less money and make more money. And that's what they're doing. The reason this happened is Dallas's owners are cheap. That's why it happened. That's it.
You just gave me a bit of information I did not know about. I didn't know Mark Cuban is no longer the owner of the Dallas Mavericks.
He sold he sold about 70% interest to this woman, Miriam Adelson, and her son-in-law. He still has a minority interest. And initially when he sold the team, the talk at the time was Cuban's still going to have a loud voice in basketball stuff. These people will do all the, but like Cuban made it clear in this deal, and Cuban. Cuban's like, I had nothing to do with this. Now I blame Cuban also, and I'll tell you why. I don't believe Cuban had anything to do with this trade, and I don't believe Cuban ever would have made the trade. But the reason I still blame Cuban, and I find this, I'm going to take it to the larger society. Mark Cuban, when he sold the Dallas Mavs, he didn't sell the Mavs because the rent was tight and he had to make it that month. He was already a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted more billions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do believe that over the years, Mark Cuban did care about this team and showed like he was kind of an owner who was like a fan who happened to own the team, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But don't ride the parade for 20 years of, hey, I'm such a great owner. I'm just like you fans. Oh, I can sell the team to someone who not only do they not care, there's a lot of talk that the Adelsons, who are big in the casino game, big, want to move the Mavs to Las Vegas, and that this is part of how they do it. You get Luka off the books, you lower the payroll, so now it's a cheaper product that you're trying to move to a new place. There's been a lot of buzz about that. Mark Cuban has to know that, and even if they don't want to move the team, even if they're going to keep them in Vegas, Mark Cuban sold a team he did not have to someone that he knows does not care about Dallas or Dallas basketball. To me, he bears some responsibility.
Okay.
For that reason. And I say that because I see all around us in society, owners, billionaires sticking their face in something and making it worse for everybody. And that's what I see happening here.
Shocked at that trade. Very shocked at that trade.
Doesn't make any sense. The fact that Luka days later is still talking about it like he's in a date, like stunned. His father gave a very good his father was on a show on Slovenian television and did a very good interview, and I thought made a really good point. His father was like, look, they want to talk about Luka's conditioning. Last year when Luka got them in the finals, averaging like a triple-double with 4 guys hanging on his back every game, where was the talk about condition? It wasn't a problem then.
Right.
When did it become a problem? They were 19-10 this year when Luka got hurt with the calf injury. That's kept him out. It wasn't a problem. I didn't hear anyone 2 months ago saying, boy, Luka's fat and they're 19-10. And again, last thing I'll say, even if you want to sell your fans on, look, fans, we're making this move because you deserve something dependable, steady. Okay, that's Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis?
Nah.
So don't tell me it's not about X's and O's. It's not about wins and losses. It's about the Adelsons being cheap. Don't let anyone tell you anything else.
Got you. Let's talk about another trade that's shocked me. The Bucks, what they're doing over there.
That one threw me. I understand. I understand the idea that maybe Chris Middleton is not what he used to be. He's been hurt a lot. He had off-season surgery on both ankles. He was still recovering from that. He's on the wrong side of 30. He's not quite the defender. And Middleton will have his number retired. He's a great Buck. But he's not in 2025 what he was 3 or 4 years ago. So I get that. And there had been talk about the Bucks having interest in Jimmy Butler. Maybe Miami didn't want to do that. Maybe it wasn't a good deal. But I don't see what Kyle Kuzma does for them at all. I would rather keep my fingers crossed and say a prayer for Chris Middleton and hope that he's back. The only thing I can think of with that franchise is that Giannis had to be on board with this, or I don't think they would do it.
Right.
And if that's the case, if Giannis is like, give me Kuzma, okay. But if it's any other reason, I'm like you. That's the one trade that I saw that I was like, other than the Luka trade, that I was like, what? Because the Bucks are right behind the Knicks, and I got to tell you, if the Knicks play the Bucks in the playoffs, Kyle Kuzma does not worry me in the least.
Not at all.
Like in the least.
Not at all. Not at all. Good trade, Bucks.
They've been there were a lot. There's a lot of teams that are going to have stuff to answer for very soon.
No.
Keep an eye on Giannis. Keep an eye on Giannis. This season doesn't end well. Keep an eye on Giannis getting a move somewhere else.
MSG.
You trading Towns?
No way.
Then how you get Giannis?
You have to give up. You have to give up the couple of Villanova players.
Okay. The Bucks are going to want Towns or Brunson to start. You're not getting Giannis for Bridges and Hart. Maybe Brunson. You throw Brunson in there, maybe. Although they have Lillard. I think you'd have to trade Towns.
I can't do it.
I love how good Towns has been, because I know a year ago, if I had said to you, who would you rather have, Karl Anthony Towns on the Knicks or Giannis? I know who you would say. We all would say it. But Towns has really been like, yo.
He really fits. He really fits.
I mean, he walked in from day one, and that offense looks like they just discovered fire. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I've been anti that trade all year. I did not want it. I did not approve of it. Karl Anthony Towns is something else, man.
Yes, it is. Yes, he is. Just stay healthy. I mean, he's playing with an injured finger right now. Yep. Just stay healthy. Get Mitch back. We traded Jericho Sims, which I think he was made expendable due to the maturation of Hakporti.
If you saw the game that Hakporti particularly played against Toronto.
Yes.
Scotty Barnes tried his luck on Ariel Hakporti like 3 to 5 times, and every single time, like, it was not a good idea.
Nope.
I love Hakporti. He's still a project, but I think you're right. I think his development and the return of Mitch made Sims expendable. I think if you've watched this season, you've seen a lot that, like, Landry Shamet will always give full effort. But he's I think he's like 6'2.5" in reality. And there's just times that physically, it doesn't matter how much you want to be in the right place at the right time. He just gets run over by dudes that are bigger and stronger. DeLon Wright is 6'5". He's having a career worst season shooting. I'm hoping the changes. He's like down around 30% from the field, 20% on twos. He's never been that low. He's had, if you remember, actually, after the Knicks and the Hawks met a few years ago in the playoffs, Atlanta's first big move was they brought in DeLon Wright because they wanted to put him next to Trae Young So I think defensively, he has a really good reputation. He can handle the ball, kind of a combo guard, but he can play point. But the issue, I was thinking about this last night. We'll see how it goes. New team, things can change. Every single guard on the Knicks can shoot. Every single guard. And now you've brought in one who hasn't this year.
Right.
If he can shoot, I like the move. If he can't shoot, I don't think he's going to play because I don't think the Knicks can afford to play. I don't think the Knicks are going to want to play lineups with, like, already now you can't play Mitch and Wright because now you got 2 guys that can't shoot. So, like, but again, they didn't bring in DeLon Wright to be the backup point guard. They didn't bring him in to have a huge role. If he gives you some spot minutes and he can play a little defense, I think he's fine.
Got you.
How do you feel about, just real quick, I want to know how you felt about Butler going to Golden State. Do you like it for them? Do you like it for him? Do you think it doesn't really matter?
Him and Draymond are going to be fighting in 2 weeks. Because Jimmy Butler don't play that with trying to be punked by anybody. He does not play that.
He is not Jordan Poole.
No. He'll fight back.
Yep, he will.
And it's going to blow up this season. I guarantee it's going to blow up this season.
There were did you see any of that Laker-Warrior game last night? It was very late.
No, I didn't get a chance to. No.
So the Lakers were up like 25 at the half, and then in the second half, Golden State came back. But they didn't quite make it. But late in the fourth, so Draymond kept, who was it that he kept? Draymond almost got in 2 things because at one point he was holding, who was it? I think Vanderbilt. He was holding Jared Vanderbilt like around the neck, and he wouldn't let go. And I was very interested because Steph had just missed a shot and was like running back on defense and had no idea that this extracurricular stuff was going on. And Draymond, is like this far, like he can't. The league is waiting to like bust him. Their whole season, Golden State needs him to stay. So like Curry turned and saw that some nonsense was going around. He didn't come over it. He didn't come to try to. You could tell Steph was like, at this point, Kerr was losing his mind on the sideline at everybody, at Draymond, at the refs, at other Warriors. Like Kerr has been like, I don't think this move really changes their ceiling any. I think they can win a round. I don't think they can win more than that. But they also gave him a 2-year extension for like $112 million. And I know, sometimes you're in a position where you make a move, you got to go all the way. But like, I didn't think Golden State. I didn't think this. I think he's a weird fit for them. I love him as a player.
I love Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's a great player.
I just think he's a weird fit for them.
He doesn't fit there. He doesn't. Yeah. It don't sit right with me with him being over there.
Yeah.
But Miami did a great job saving face. You get Wiggins and some parts back. It's not gonna change their momentum. because Hero is stepped in as the second guy behind Adebayo, or the other way around. They're the 1-2 punch now, and so they're gonna play. They're gonna play no matter what. Spoelstra is a great coach. He knows how to coach, so that team will be fine.
I do find it funny, and I'm glad that Butler went there just for this reason. I've been hearing literally since the mid-'90s about Pat Riley and Heat culture. And when Jimmy Butler got there, they bent all the rules for him because he was really, really, really good. And as soon as he wasn't really, really, really good, they stopped bending the rules. He sat out, and they traded him. Don't talk to me about culture when your culture is basically the same thing Phil Jackson figured out in the 90s with Dennis Rodman, which is, I will change the rules if you're good enough.
Right.
That's not new. That's not culture. That's what every high school coach in America does.
Exactly.
Who's my best player? Different set of rules. But yeah.
Parcells did with LT.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, I'm interested to see how the rest of the season plays out. Knicks still got an uphill battle with Boston. They're 2 games, I believe, still 2 games behind Boston for the number 2
Only
spot.
one in the loss column after last night. So if they win tomorrow, they'll be a half game back, but they'll be tied in the loss column and they'll be tied in the season series. So it's a big game tomorrow for them.
Big game tomorrow for them. Yeah, I can't wait. I really can't wait. They really had this many days off.
Yeah, I love that. I love that too. They had 3 days off. They're gonna get to practice. Towns gets to rest. Towns has finally started hitting some threes after that initial sprain and stuff in his hand. So like, Celtics had to play last night. They lost. They didn't look good. It's at MSG. It's everything you could want tomorrow.
Absolutely.
8:30 national game. Like, I will be buzzing by 8:30 for that game.
It's a big weekend. This is a big weekend. We got Super Bowl on Sunday. We got the Knicks tomorrow. I'm excited. So stay tuned for the Super Bowl preview on Sunday. We're gonna have that too. If Matthew wants to join us too for that, we can join us too.
I got a big soccer weekend too, so I'm gonna be lit all weekend. We also got Pete Alonso coming back to New York this weekend, dog.
As we segue back to that, I'm happy that Zoe, the polar bear, is back with the New York Mets. I'm very happy about that, even though his stupid dumbass agent tried to ruin it. But and I blame also now. I'm hearing through the grapevine is pretty much Brandon Nimmo who told Pete to sign with Scott Boras too.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Okay.
And I as a fan, I have no use for Scott Boras, but as a very pro union person, Brandon Nimmo got something like 118. Okay, he got a 9-figure deal. Brandon Nimmo was not a dude that came into the major leagues necessarily as a 5-tool, just can't miss. It wasn't that kind of guy.
No.
Whatever Boras did for Brandon Nimmo worked. Now, I would say that it would be wrong to say that I feel bad for Pete Alonso when he's already richer than I'll ever be. And he's earned it. Like I love Pete. Pete turned down a 7-year, $158 million offer 2 years ago before he hired Boras. Pete turned that down because Pete wanted either the most money for a first baseman, which he wasn't going to get because that's Freddie Freeman, I think, or he wanted the highest average value. And he gambled. He turned down 7 years. He gambled. He hired Boras when everyone has seen the last few years. Boras is very loud when he gets a 10-year deal for Juan Soto. Can't miss him. But the number of Boras clients, we got Blake Snell, we've got Chapman, we've got 2 other guys, Jordan Montgomery, and there was some fourth. There's been a number of Boras
JD
clients.
Martinez.
Yes, that's another one. Yes, JD Martinez. That's how the Mets got him. Guys who came in, you're thinking all off season, like, and Boras guides them. And you and I talked about this months ago. We even talked about February rolls around, March rolls around. Pete doesn't have a team yet. You better start looking at Scott Boras, being like. So I'm not going to blame Nimmo when like Nimmo's had one experience with Scott Boras, which is very positive. And Pete Alonso has an entire industry of people he could talk to get, and I'm sure he did, a full picture of Scott Boras. I think Boras is doing his job right now. Boras is getting more of the heat for the fact that Pete did not sign any of these offers that he got. And I think it's worked out okay for Pete. He's still getting $30 million. He still has an opt out.
Mm-hmm.
But he took a chance. You gambled on a. You know me, man. You know how we. If somebody offers me $158 million, I don't care what I'm worth, Dom. I'm taking it.
True.
Then I will worry about what I'm actually worth, and I'll use my money to hire a lawyer and get it. But when someone says you want $158 million, unless you're like LeBron, you say yes. Pete said no. Then they offered him, okay, 3 years. 3 years, 70 to 75 million. Options. Pete said no. Now here's the deal for Pete. Pete's kind of in a bad, like, I love Pete. I hope it works out. I hope he has a great year and he hits it again. But here's the thing now. The whole major leagues could have had Pete Alonso this offseason. The Yankees could have had him, and you know after losing Soto, that would not have been a terrible, at least public relations move. The Blue Jays were interested. The Mariners won't spend money, but they desperately need like a bat. There's a lot of team. All the Major League Baseball saw Pete Alonso out there and said, no, I'm good. So now if you're Pete, let's say next year you have a great year and you opt out and you hit free agency. Now you're 31 going on 32. You might get a deal. Toronto will probably lose VladGuerrero Jr., so maybe they'll want someone. Let's say you're Pete and you have a bad year. Now you're not opting out.
You're opting in.
So now let's say it takes you 2 years to have that bounce back. Now when you have the bounce back, you're 32 going on 30. You see what I'm saying? Like Pete, I feel like Pete, New York loves you. As you're healthy, you're going to set the franchise record for home runs next year. You have got Lindor and Soto in front of you for presumably the rest of your career.
Right.
Just stay here and be happy and be loved and win a World Series and don't worry about the 100. Easy for me to say.
Easy for you to say, yeah.
Easy for me to say. But like,
easy for me to say.
Easy for all of us to say. But I don't get the sense that Pete is really, especially at this stage of his career. If he's 25, he wants to see the, go ahead, man. But you're 31, you're 32, you've been on lousy teams, you've been on good teams, you've seen the whole league, you're married, you're settled down. I would want him to be like, come on, Pete. Do it here.
I felt the contract was great. They front loaded it. First year, 30 million, second year, 24 million. But
which was a nice gesture. He wanted that, and they did that so he wouldn't lose face. They did that because you know what? You want the most you can get up front, we're gonna give it to you. And they did.
But you know, this is where I'm in the disagreement with his contract as far as the general manager is concerned, because I personally would not give him an opt-out after year one, knowing that on his walk year he had a bad season.
But okay, let me ask you this: if you're the Mets and you told Alonso you can have, so would you have given him the opt-out after year two, or you're giving him a 3-year deal with no opt-outs?
I'm actually going to give him a 3-year deal with a team and player option on year 4. So the total amount would be $115 million for 4 years.
Okay.
As a play, that's what I would do.
If Pete said to you, and we know from what he said publicly that Steve Cohen called these negotiations exhausting, said they were worse than the Soto. So if Pete said to you, either give me, if Pete says, unless you're giving me at least 4 years guaranteed, I need opt-outs. What are you saying?
No, I'm not giving him an opt-out at all for 4 years. I'm giving him an opt-out after 3 years. If we could negotiate, I'll give him an opt-out after 2 years.
But okay, why would you give him one after 2 but not after 1?
We see because of past history. His walk years, he did not play well. I need this man to play well. I need his mind to be clear behind this lineup that he's going to be in. He's going to have Lindor, Soto in front of him, and Vientos in back of him. We cannot have a black hole in the 4th spot or the 3 spot where he's going to replace that. I can't have that as a general manager looking forward.
Which is what I think was his leverage. This is why I'm asking you. Everything you're saying makes sense. Before they re-signed Pete, despite the fact that they brought in Soto, despite the fact that they retained Manaea, they're getting Senga back, I was getting real pissy about this offseason because I felt like you're not better. Like Soto's better than Alonso, but if now Vientos is at first, I don't know how Vientos will be at first. And if he struggles defensively, that might affect his bat. If you move Vientos off a third, I don't expect Beatty to hit as well as Vientos did. Like, so am I weakening too? So I was not happy. I was like, because I was like, you got to get Pete. The whole point of Soto is you got to have someone behind him. Because if you're going to compete with the Dodgers, the one place the Mets, like, you're not going to build a whole pitching staff like the Dodgers have. No. You're not going to build a whole bullpen. But the biggest difference last year between these two teams was that the top three in the Met lineup, I believe, were Nimmo, Lindor, Pete, I think.
Yeah. Lindor was cleanup. Lindor was clean. Nimmo was cleanup hitter. I don't like Nimmo in the cleanup spot.
It was Lindor, Vientos, Alonso was their 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
The Dodgers 1, 2, 3 was Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman.
Yeah, that's way better.
So you have to step that up, and they did. And if it's Lindor, Soto, Alonso, we're talking. But before the signing, it was Lindor, Soto, Nimmo,
and Vientos.
And that to me was where Pete was able to say, okay, I have some leverage too. Because if you let me go, try selling your fans and selling Juan Soto on, we got Brandon Nimmo behind you. I love Nimmo. Nimmo's not a cleanup hitter.
No, he's a top of the lineup hitter.
Yep.
So they got to figure out a way to have him. I don't like Nimmo anywhere near the 4th spot, but he's a good enough player to avoid being lower in the lineup. This is the conundrum we have now because Lindor has found his groove in that leadoff spot. That leadoff spot was for Nimmo because of his on-base percentage, his ability to work through at bats, getting pitches throw the most pitches. Where are you going to put Nimmo now? The 9th spot?
Well, here's what I'm wondering about, and there's a name I'm going to give you. He's the one name that I'm the most. He's not the best Met at all. He's not the most important Met. He's not the most expensive Met, but he's the Met right now that I'm most interested in for last year. You remember, I think we talked about this last episode. When the Mets got John Olerud, the Mets tried to turn him. He had hit like 350 for Toronto. He was a guy with a great eye, hit for average. The Mets wanted him to start pulling the ball and hitting home runs. And he tried it for about a year. He still hit like 300, like 25 home runs. But like, that wasn't John Olerud's strength. Don't try to make him. But some guys can make that switch. Nimmo has made a very effective switch from, like you were saying, a guy who leads off, draws walks, sees a lot of pitches. He's a table setter. He has become, whether by necessity or just organically, more of like a middle of. He had like a career high in home runs last year. He's became a bit more of a run producer. There's a man on this roster who was not with the team when last season finished, who could fill the one position that they have an opening for. I believe he's a batting champ in the past, and I don't think I'm looking for Jeff McNeill to do that this year. But if I'm looking for someone who will take pitches, who I can put ahead of Lindor, while still maybe keeping Nimmo back just a little bit. Because now if your middle, let's say, is Vientos, Nimmo, Alvarez, that's a good middle. And if that middle is following McNeill, Lindor, Soto, that's a rough line. That lineup's going to give a lot of people a lot of problems. But Jeff McNeill is on the wrong side of 30. He was hurt last year. I just wonder about McNeill because I think, I know a lot of people are penciling in Acuna. Just remember with Acuna was called up by necessity. He did not have a good time in AAA. He wasn't there very long, but he did not rake at all at AAA. They called him up because they needed him. He did well. But I am not one of the people who's convinced Acuna is going to get it because he has had very little time at AAA or the major league level. He might be. I keep carrying a hope that Ronnie Mauricio just eats it up in spring training and let that man play second base and let him be your Jeff Kent. Let him just be a guy who can hit the ball like crazy. I don't care how great his defense is. Second base.
He's a good defender. He's a good defender, but he's too tall. He's too tall for second base.
Yes,
too tall for he's more of a third baseman / shortstop in the infield player. Switch hitter. He was raking. Unlike Acuna, he was raking in AAA. He's ready.
He was hitting the majors even too. He had some. Yes. I mean, he could hit as much. I love Vientos. I'm not sure Vientos is a better natural hitter than Mauricio. He may have a better career. But when you see Mauricio's the kind of guy you watch take batting practice. He's got lightning in those wrists.
I don't know if you've seen my previous episode, Matt. I have had a great trade proposal because I truly believe the Mets are not done with getting big time players. The key to beat the Dodgers is having length in that lineup.
Yeah.
And I think the Mets, do no stretch of the imagination, are out of Vlad Jr. They're not out of it. I could see a situation where you're going to possibly see Alonso, Vlad, Soto, and Vientos in that lineup next year. It's a very big possibility that could happen. And this is the trade I have for you.
Go ahead.
I'm going to trade Jeff McNeill, Starling Marte. I got to give up some of the young prospects, either Drew Gilbert or Jet Williams, along with Acuna to Toronto. I don't want to give up Acuna, but I'm getting Vlad Jr. and possibly a starting pitcher if it's Chris Bassett comes back. I don't know.
Bassett, wow, forgot that name. I'm not interested in Bassett only because, although I loved him as a Met, I think they have enough middle of the rotation guys. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to get someone, I want someone like better than Senga. But as far as Marte, McNeil, probably to add salary to it, Jet Williams, a couple prospects. I love it for the Mets, and Toronto's weird. Like, it could happen. The only thing I wonder about with Toronto is like their fans are like about to revolt because they cannot add anyone big. And Vladimirguerrerojr Jr. has already said after, I think, the 18th of this month, if he doesn't have a deal with Toronto by the 18th, he's not negotiating again. He's going to wait till free agency. So they have an enormous amount of pressure. Saying. So we'll see. You may not need to trade for him. Just maybe hold your breath and wait a little bit.
Hold on.
You may just get him for some cash.
Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna hold on because a lot of people don't know Vlad Jr. does not only play first base; he can play third base as well.
Yes,
you can have a rotation of that DH of Vientos, Alonso, and Guerrero Jr. for years to come.
I will tell you that I don't see any way, and I'm not a fortune teller. It's difficult for me to see Pete's ego letting him stay here if they've just given, because to get Guerrero, let's say they make the trade. Guerrero's going to get $450 to $500 million at least on his next deal. So for Alonso to stay, when you wouldn't give him 160, but you're going to give someone else 500 after you gave Soto 765, I can't see Pete's ego letting him say, "Yeah, I'll stay and be your fifth best paid hitter and your second best paid first baseman."
Well, that's when he can leverage that opt-out.
Yes, he can.
That's when. See, this is what I mentioned, that contract, the 4-year contract, to prevent that from happening. Sometimes you got to overpay your homegrown star to keep him happy, so you get that next superstar that will guarantee you championship, be in championship position every single season. The National League East.
I think Stearns, and I don't like it with Pete, but I'll say this: when the Mets let Jose Reyes go, I was furious. They were
I'm so furious about it.
They were right, though. I don't think they did it for the right reasons. I will say that David Stearns has a lot. Stearns and Cohen have much more credibility than whoever it was at the time, Duquette and Wilpon with Reyes.
No, it was actually Alderson.
Yeah, but you knew it was Wilpon. So to me, there is a difference between we lost Reyes because the Wilpons are cheap. And we might lose Pete because David Stearns, whatever you think of it, has had a lot of success with a philosophy that says we do not pay big money to people over 30. Like, now, I think Pete's a different case, like you're saying. Pete's not some dude. Historically, in Met history, he's not just some dude. What he did last year in the playoffs was not just some dude. But I think this is Stearns, and like, you hired this man to run your team. And you wanted him to give you a culture and an imprint. And like he has shown, like, we are not paying for 30-something-year-old. And if you go back history of Met contracts, Jason Bay, Johan Santana, the big contracts for guys over 30 do not always go well.
Doesn't go well. I feel bad for Johan, though.
Oh, yep. I feel bad for Terry Collins because Terry Collins was dying in that no-hitter knowing I'm killing my guy's arm.
Yeah.
But we never had a no-hitter.
No.
Poor Terry. Terry had to deal with that, and then had to deal with Harvey in the World Series. Terry Collins deserves like a lifetime achievement award and a lot of money from the Mets because he put out some fire. He took the hit on a lot of things.
He took a hit a lot, so including his magic during the World Series when they should have won that World Series.
Yeah, but I always felt like what Terry gave them that was good was far more than whatever he ever cost them that was bad.
No. But I can't for TC. I give him all the credit in the world.
Yeah.
Also, let's be completely honest. I give him all the credit in the world for getting us to that World Series in 2015 and then coming back in 2016 just to be in the 1-game playoff against the Giants. Yeah. Guys just didn't execute. For me, didn't execute. You know what I'm saying? The offense didn't hit.
Close or blows it.
The offense was not hitting in that game against Baumgartner.
Yep.
But Syndergaard was only Met that did what he was supposed to do.
He did.
And I'm gonna go out to say this. I'm out to start a campaign. I'm starting many campaigns on True Players Podcast, Matt. Let's sign Noah Syndergaard to a minor league contract and see what he got. Come on, man. What it would not hurt. It's low risk, high reward.
1 second. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna do one thing real quick.
Okay, low risk, high reward.
Okay, so Noah Syndergaard.
Yeah, talk to me.
He is about to turn
30.
He'll turn 30. He'll turn 33 next year.
Okay.
He did not pitch at all in the major leagues last year.
He rested that elbow.
Okay, he rested the elbow. He has not made 20 starts in a season since 2022.
Okay.
He has not won 10 games since that year. He has not struck out 100 batters since 2019 when he struck out 200 with the Mets. I think there are maybe roles Syndergaard could work in. Like, I would be much more interested in, like, let's get Syndergaard and see, like, we put him in a setup role and tell him, like, when you go out there for an inning, you just cut loose. Like, just cut loose. But as a starter, I mean, they already have like 8 starters.
Yeah.
If you add Syndergaard, and to me, this again is like before when we talked about who were we talking about? A pitcher who I was like, if I'm going to bring someone in, they got to be better than Senga. Like,
yes.
Syndergaard's not better than Senga. Syndergaard's not better than Minaya. At this point, I can't put Syndergaard ahead of probably almost any of their starters. Even McGill and Peterson, I would say right now, have shown more stuff in the last couple of years than Syndergaard has. If it's Syndergaard from 5 years ago, sure, bring him back. But he hasn't been that man in 5 years.
I see your argument. But for me, nostalgia, I love Thor.
I got you. Hey, when they brought back Jose Reyes, I didn't care how bad he looked. I was like, bring that man back. I did not care.
And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But I just believe, I feel bad for Jose Butto. I think he's going to be in that Seth Lugo role with the Mets.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Yeah. But again, if he's successful in that role on a New York team that has 2-3 good years in a row, he's going to get paid by someone on the back end of it. Like, he'll make that money. Same as Lugo. Lugo's done very fine financially. I always felt like you could see it's killing this guy. He stuck with it. He made it work. Butto's not old.
It's funny. It's funny. We talk about Syndergaard. I mean, Lugo and Gesellman. The two pitchers. The reason why we made it to that 1-game playoff against San Francisco was because of those two guys.
Yep.
Those two guys.
Butto is only about to turn 27. So
yeah,
he's gonna get his shot. Last year was like his probably career year. He threw way more innings than he had ever thrown before. There's still a dude who's only thrown in his whole career 120 innings. So yeah. We'll see what he does. He's someone that I'm excited about. I think their bullpen could be pretty good. I still do think. I don't care when you have 8 starters. You always need more starting pitching, but I think they need more top-end starting pitching. I don't think they need more 3s. They need more 1s and 2s.
Well, before I let you go, they try to get Dylan Cease from the Padres.
Heard about that. Which may be easier now or may be harder because the Padres now, baseball just approved finally. There had been a big ownership mess because the Padres owner died and his widow was fighting with his brothers. But baseball finally has settled on one of the brothers, I think, is going to take over. So the Padres have really made no moves because they've been frozen because of this ownership thing. Maybe now that there is actually someone in charge, you might see someone like Dylan Cease move. And to me, that would make the mid-off season like perfect and complete. Like perfect and complete.
I would say don't touch anybody on that team now, because you could have a situation where you got Winker and Marte DHing, going back and forth with DHing.
Mm-hmm.
You got Marte who could play either right field or left field for you. Marcelo Marte is in a prime position to be a good contributor to the team, and not only that, his contributions to the playoffs is bar none spectacular.
I would hope they keep him. I'm worried that they'll think he's expendable because they brought in outfielders, but like. You want, give Soto a day off or let him DH. You can throw Starling Marte in right field. We know he can run. You saw in the playoffs, like not just everything, but like specifically a right-hand batter who can take it the other way, who can hit with 2 strikes, who has just not a natural, but like an obvious high baseball IQ over years of playing. Like that's a guy in October, that's someone you want to call off the bench and be like, all right, we got Starling Marte.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They re-signed Stanek. They got
Yes.
AJ. What's the last name? AJ.
Not Hinch. What's his name? Not Cantor. Panther. Minter.
AJ Minter.
Yeah.
So the bullpen is still a work in progress.
It is, which it always is.
Every year,
every off season. But I like the arms that they have, and I feel better than I did a year ago. I think because I've seen some of these people have success with them.
Absolutely. So Matt, I know you got a jet.
Let me ask you one more question, just a jet question before I go.
Excellent.
Where do you stand on Aaron Glenn?
I'm good with it. I'm good with it because he's a homegrown Jet.
Right.
He understands the media. He understands Woody Johnson, so he knows how to navigate between the mediums of Woody and the fan base. His defenses in Detroit were pretty good, but sometimes when they had to get a big lead, they tend to let off the gas pedal a little bit. That's one thing that worries me. But having him in the room will make sure that Ahmad Gardner will become Sauce Gardner once again.
That would be nice.
As you said in previous podcasts, I will not call that man Sauce. His name is Ahmad Gardner until he gets his sauce back. Okay? Until he gets his sauce back, he will be Ahmad Gardner.
That bottle's empty till you fill it up.
It's empty. I was very disappointed in him last season.
He struggled.
Disappointed.
I will say, looking at the Eagles and seeing, like, I think, isn't Mehdi Becton on their line? Like, I feel like the problem with Gardner, he may be young and he has to mature, but, like, it's probably more him realizing this organization sucks rather than the problem being, like, he suddenly sucks. But you're right. You still got to play, play through that.
Mm-hmm. So they got Wilkes. They got the OC from, I believe, not from Detroit, from the Broncos, I believe.
Yes. And the GM too is from Denver.
The GM's from the Denver. I thought they would go with the guy from Washington, the assistant GM from Washington.
Who worked with Glenn.
Yes.
That bothered me right at the start because I was like, wait a minute. Why are you bringing in a coach and then bringing in a GM he hasn't worked with? When I mean, if it's anyone other than Woody, I would say, okay, trust your judgment. But, like, I love Aaron Glenn, and I'll say that one reason I've always loved Aaron Glenn, even back as a player, because he also reminds me of one of my favorite, not the biggest Jet name ever, but there used to be a safety on the Jets, I think named Victor Green.
Yeah, Victor Green is the man. That's my
Victor
guy
Green
right
would
there.
hit the shit out of people.
Oh, yeah.
I loved Victor Green. But the point I'm making is, like, it just seems for the Jets to once again hire a coach with no experience, who's a defensive coordinator, doesn't thrill me. It's Aaron Glenn, so, like, I feel differently because I love Aaron Glenn. But, like, that plus, okay, we're going to also bring in a GM, which is good. You want to bring in a coach and a GM together. But, again, you brought in a coach and a GM who don't come together, have never worked together. You've brought the GM in after the coach. So, again, this isn't his guy. Hopefully it works. But it feels like Woody Johnson's like, just do it again.
That's the one thing I have a problem with Woody. He wants the GM to report to him. He wants the head coach to report to him. That should not be the way it should be done. It should be coach report to the GM, GM reports to the owner.
Woody wants a whole organization of people who will narc to him instead of go be a winning football team. And there was a good article it was in the Athletic recently, and they were talking specifically about the different appeal around the league that the head coaching jobs had. So like Dallas was very appealing. The Jets were right at the bottom with the Raiders. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons people gave about the Jets being like just always unappealing is just like there's never a sense that the owner knows or cares. Mm-hmm. So I hope aaronglenn is that guy. And I hope get him a quarterback. Hopefully the draft falls in a way that, if you really like Cam Ward, I don't know who people are hoping for, but like, I just feel like the Jets need something mammoth to happen that's different. And it just feels like I love aaronglenn, but it feels like, again, I'm watching the same movie.
Yeah.
We need a guy like Parcells. We bring in a coach with no experience. Mm-hmm. We need a GM who knows our coach. We bring in someone who doesn't. We need a quarterback. We're drafting just far enough. If Aaron Rodgers had lost one or two more games, then they'd be in position. So, like, I hope it changes. And I really do hope it works with aaronglenn because I always liked him very much.
Before I let you go, Matt, the worst case scenario is bringing back Aaron Rodgers. Worst case scenario, even the scenario of having Tyrod Taylor starting the season.
I don't even follow the Jets anymore. I will tell you on the air, if they bring Aaron Rodgers back, I'm going to firebomb the Meadowlands in August. Put it on the record. Get the FBI. I don't care. If Aaron Rodgers is a Jet, I'm going to war.
But, I'm leaning towards, before I let you go, either Tyrod Taylor or Kirk Cousins being the Jets starting quarterback.
I'm fine with Tyrod Taylor for a year.
As the bridge.
Or Cousins. If you think Cousins is more likely to keep Wilson happy, especially, I think that's important.
Yeah, that's very important.
I think especially after the Rodgers fiasco, like, you need Garrett Wilson next year to feel like this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
So maybe Cousins Taylor is a good combo for that.
Definitely.
Just give the man a professional quarterback. Just give him
something like that.
A pro.
Yeah. He had Zach Wilson for 3 years. Right. All those Zach Wilson fans, those Jet fans who are Zach Wilson fans, go suck a dick, man. Fucking, you notice every single former Jet quarterback has left the Jets and went to the playoffs except for that bum.
Yeah, he's different.
He's here trying to bang his mom's best friend. Come on, man. Shit. World champion of Cougar Hunter. The world champion of that shit. But on that note, Matt, let me let you go, man. I'll let you get that laugh on.
I needed that. I appreciate that.
No doubt. So it's your man, Big Dog. We're going to sign off on this podcast. Hopefully, Matt will join us on Sunday. I'll be trying to do this preview at 3 p.m., possibly the Super Bowl preview at 3 p.m. Sunday. So hopefully you can join. I'm going to have Joey G join us.
What state I'm in. I don't know what state I'm going to be in, but I'm telling you that I just picked up some. Where are they? There we go.
We will get started.
These gummies are no joke.
Oh.
And these are my Sunday morning gummies. So hit me up Sunday.
Okay.
You will find me happy one way or the other. We will see about Sunday.
You're going to see me happy during the podcast. I'm taking my Jell-O shots right in front of you.
Right.
So let's get it. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for the Sunday, 3 p.m. Preview of the Super Bowl. This man Big Dog signing off for this podcast. I'll check you guys on the next episode Sunday at 3 p.m. Holla at your boy. Peace.